What's up, you guys? Teddy Striker here, and I recently got my hands on UFC 6, and this gameplay right here is going to be one of my first couple matches online. I couldn't get the first fight because I accidentally deleted it, but I want to give you guys a quick review of UFC 6. I know typically I cover other topics, but I figured why not, and it's been a while since I haven't posted, but I'll be back and I'll be covering the regular things I talk about like later this week and the following weeks. But let's get right into this review. First of all, like UFC 6 took a while to come out. It took like 3 years, kind of like how UFC 5 also took 3 years. But before that, the UFC games were coming out every 2 years. And UFC 5 took a while because they had this new engine, the Frostbite engine, that they were like going to develop the game on. And then for UFC 6, I think they took so long because they wanted to add the fighter uniqueness. And to be fair, they did a pretty good job. Like, this game does feel pretty different to UFC 5. Like, I thought I could just go online, just pick up the game and start knocking people out. But no, I was getting knocked out, and I found out even like the AI was knocking me out because at the start of the game, when you first launch it, you're playing as Max Holloway and you're taking on, I believe it was Dustin Poirier, like to get like a basic understanding of like the controls, and then you go up against like I think it's Bobby Green. But then after that, like I kind of skipped all that stuff and went right into a fight against the AI, and it was on pro difficulty, and I was getting knocked out, and I was quite surprised because on UFC 5 I have no problem beating the legendary AI, which is the hardest difficulty on that game. But this one, I couldn't even get past like the pro AI, and I was pretty surprised. Like, quite a bit has changed, and this game really feels like it's all about the timing, especially when it comes to like countering your opponent. Like, it's a lot harder in this game to actually counter your opponent. Like in UFC 5, you can pick up anybody in the game and have a pretty easy time countering like just about anybody. Like, you can pick someone like Sam Alvey, for example. Like, Sam Alvey, like you can pick him up and counter anybody and you can still like do really well. But in this game, like, not only is it like do you have to fight based on like your fighter's strengths, but like it's really hard to defend the strikes and like actually like use your head movement, because like it just feels like everything is just a lot faster. And also like the animations, like for example, a guy like Sean Strickland, if he throws a right straight or like a right hook, it kind of looks a little bit similar. So sometimes it's like really hard to like read it, especially when they're throwing combinations. Like, the combinations feel really fast, and it feels like you can't really counter in between quite as well. Like I'm at least for me, like I'm having a hard time like countering in between the combinations when they get started. And I've heard some players say that this is the type of game that you actually have to go into practice mode and actually like get like familiar with the controls, like practice your defense, practice your offense. And they are right. Like, you actually have to do this because you can't just like go up online and expect like you to like dominate. Like, for example, in this background gameplay, by the way, I'm using Nasruddin Imavov and I'm fighting Sean Strickland, and Sean Strickland is probably one of the hardest fighters to beat. But like going into practice mode and like really getting Sean Strickland to throw some combinations and starting to develop some pattern recognition with what he's throwing and how to counter, I feel like that's going to make beating Sean Strickland players a lot easier. So that's definitely something I'm going to do. But one thing I really like is how like unique the fighters are. Like, it really feels like you gotta fight a certain style when you're picking someone. Like, if you're picking Israel Adesanya, you're going to have a lot of success using your kicks and fighting at a longer range and really staying on the outside. Like, but if you were using Israel Adesanya and you're trying to pressure box, you might not have quite as much success. Like, it's just going to be a harder fight than it should be. And if you're a guy like Sean Strickland, like, you got that incredible defense. Like, it's really hard to get through and like land shots clean. Like, the overhands do land clean on Strickland, like if he's not moving his head because of the Philly shell, like it does leave an opening. But yeah, here I just get knocked out. I just got destroyed in this one. And a guy like Imavov, he's like a bit like harder to use for me personally. Like, his style is a lot harder, especially when you're going up against a guy like Strickland, who also has good boxing, good defense. Like, it's hard to break through and really like use Imavov's strength, like his boxing, really well. So like, he's one guy that I'm gonna have to definitely go in practice with. But one thing I don't really like about UFC 6 is like when somebody is like throwing a head kick at you and they're in a range that like should be like completely unrealistic for them to throw a head kick. Like, they're still able to land their head kicks, like especially when you're, let's say for example, you're throwing a jab and they're throwing a head kick at the same time, and you're in a range where your jab can land. Like, their head kick is still somehow landing, like even though I'm hitting them with a jab and like they're kicking, like their kick might be like slower than my jab, but they're still able to like land their kicks. And I feel like that doesn't really make sense. Like, you don't really see that too often. Like, this happened when I was using Max Holloway and fighting a Charles Oliveira player. Like, he was able to land his head kicks from a range that doesn't make sense, and we never really see Oliveira do that. Like, for example, a fighter like Marcin Petrino, who's not in the game, but he's actually done this against Modestas Busquets in the fight. Like, he threw a head kick and he actually rocked him, and it was a range where Modestas could have like punched him up. And if fighters like Stephen One Boy Thompson, fighters like Justin Gaethje like do this, I don't really have a problem with it, because we've actually kind of seen that they have the ability to do something like this, especially Gaethje, who's actually throwing head kicks like off the clinch. So I don't mind seeing that from those fighters. But like, if everybody can do it, like what the hell? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I feel like it doesn't really match with the whole theme of UFC 6, which is about like fighter uniqueness and being as real as it gets. So I think they should like leave this sort of ability to like the fighters that can actually do this in the fights. And if they can't do it, then I think that the jab or the punches you're throwing should intercept the head kicks. It shouldn't be a case where the head kick still somehow lands, even though like you're in super close range. And we've never, like, for example, if like Ilia Topuria like is able to do this, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the guy has never thrown a head kick in his entire career, so why should he be able to throw a head kick when I'm landing a jab on him? It doesn't make any sense at all. And I hope they can fix this in a later patch. But another problem that I have a problem with in UFC 6 is the ground and pound. Like, I feel like the ground game overall, like, I don't mind it too much. Like, I feel like it is what it is. But one thing I don't like is the ground game. Like, why am I limited to throw like a limited amount of strikes in like 10 seconds? Because in real life, we don't really see this. Like, you see fighters like throw multiple punches. Like, typically they don't stop unless they get tired, but that's something that can be implemented in the game without this weird like timer system. I feel like it should be like how it was in UFC 3. And basically in UFC 3, you could throw as many strikes as you want, and the opponent like had to like defend it or like try to like move out of the position and maybe try to get up. And also you can throw as many elbows as you want. And I don't get how this is not in the game. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's an MMA game. Like, we see plenty of fights where fighters are throwing multiple elbows at a time and finishing their opponents with it, like Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev, like Curtis Blades versus I think it was Alistair Overeem. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why am I limited? This is a fight. This, like, if anything, you should make it easier for the opponent on the bottom to try to get up, because we see a lot of the times like fighters are able to get back up to their feet when their opponent actually opens up to throw ground and pound, to let the fighter on the bottom have a wider opening to get back to his feet, instead of like having this weird system where I'm limited. And also what I hate is how if like the fighter on bottom like defends a strike, like maybe he's like slipping an elbow or like he's slipping a straight shot, like he's able to do this crazy transition / reversal and end up on top. And I absolutely hate this. Like, we rarely see this in like real life. So again, why is this in the game? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like the fighter on bottom should just be able to get back up to his feet or look to a better position on the bottom. But like, seeing these weird transitions is just so insane to me. And to be honest, it doesn't feel like it's something that should take them that long to fix. I feel like they should be able to fix something like this pretty easily. And I feel like people have been complaining about this ground pound system for a while. ever since basically UFC 4. And like, again, like they take 3 years in between these games now, and we don't really see too much in terms of the ground, like especially the ground and pound, which is something that is very important. And it's a fix that would make the ground game a lot better, and it would just make it a lot more fun, and a lot more fighters, a lot more players would actually be willing to engage on the ground. Because now, like, typically we don't really see like too many grapplers. Like, from my experience, I see mainly like strikers, because they focus mainly on the striking. Like, they made a lot of improvements on the striking, which is great. And the only thing I would change is to actually give us the ability to parry strikes from our opponent. Like, maybe we can do something with like the arrows on the controller, because like most of the controls are already taken out. But like, let us actually parry some strikes, and if we miss a parry, that should be an opening for our opponent to take advantage of it. And maybe like, if we try to parry a cross, but maybe it's like a head kick, then maybe like we can see like some knockouts, like how Usman got knocked out. I know he kind of like slipped into it, but he was also trying to parry a strike that wasn't really there, and he got knocked out for it. And I feel like we should be able to have some of these sequences by really being able to parry strikes from our opponent, and it will make like the defense a lot better. Like, because right now it's like blocking, like using your head movement, which again, it's a lot harder now because the strikes are a lot faster. But if you're able to actually parry strikes, I feel like that would kind of balance it out. So overall, I would give this game a 7 out of 10, because I feel like it's a very solid game, but it has a lot more potential. And especially in the career mode, like, why is it still the same thing as UFC 5? Like, the training is so boring. Like, we've seen this like for like the past like 3 to 4 games now. Like, come on, they gotta mix it up. Like, if you're doing boxing training, like, give us the bigger gloves, maybe some headgear. Like, it should be a lot more fun, a lot more interactive, but it's not. So I feel like it has a lot of potential though. And yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7, but it is fun. And to be honest,
I love this game.